Hey everyone, it is Friday. That means another podcast is dropping. A lot of news happening this week as well. I have Twitter reinstalled on my phone, so that way I can keep up with the news. If you're keeping up with me, I have kind of went through a mood, so I didn't have Twitter on my phone for a couple weeks, and I missed out on a little bit of news. But I did go back and look at some of that. There's not that much that I missed. I'm not going to rehash anything. I'm just going to look forward and move on. This week does have quite a bit of news. There's a lot of news in the collegiate esports world right now. First one being UCI. This coming from the CES NGG Twitter, Collegiate Esports Network Twitter. UCI, they're going to be hosting a second annual Best Coast League of Legends Invitational, and that is an open tournament that's going to be nationwide and will crown a Best Coast champion. You can go over to their page, UCI Esports, check that out for more. I believe you can still sign up right now. I think it's just the inception of it right now, so still early going. You can still sign up. Go check that out. Another thing that's happening is the World Cyber Games. I don't even know if that's collegiate, but over in the World Cyber Games, World Cyber Games happen in China, but over in Hong Kong, close to China, in China, there's the LICC. I'm going to be talking about the LICC quite a bit tonight because I have experience with it. I've casted one of them from the United States. It was a lot of fun in its reason, for what it was. It also sucked for a lot of reasons. I'm going to get into that later. But that is going on right now. Maryville University, they're over there representing North America, so I hope they win. I love international collegiate events. It's so fun seeing the display, like the best of the world come together and take each other on. Maryville University, the first one I casted, I think that was the first. I don't think that might not have been the first one. It definitely is not the first international event. I'm wondering if it was the first LICC, is the one I casted about 2 years ago. Maryville, they did well. They got to the semifinals and then lost to, I believe it was Toronto. Yeah, I think Toronto beat them. Toronto was over there representing North America as well. And then I believe Toronto lost to, I forget the name. It was a Chinese school, though. And I remember I think their ADC was called Little Milk. And that guy, the whole team was really good. But Little Milk was something else. He kind of was a terror to everybody. I think it was Haikou College of Economics. I think that's what it was called. And correct me in the comments below if you remember that and you know the actual name. I believe it was that, though. I actually got some help pronouncing that back in the day. I did enlist some help pronouncing some of the names, especially the Chinese schools back a couple years ago when I casted that. It was a great experience for learning different regions, I guess if you want to call it power levels, learning different regions, what they have to offer, and not to mention just get to know some of the schools. I learned a lot about the European system. I still keep up with them with the Masters. That's pretty cool. So I learned a lot. I don't regret it, but like I said, there was some pitfalls for that. I'll get into that. But third piece of news is the NACE conference is going on. That's mostly going to be for some of the bigwigs in collegiate system, a lot of coaches, directors, facilitators of sorts, even companies that have esports programs like Twitch. I don't know if Corsair is there, but I know representatives of Twitch are there with I think his name's Kenneth Kbon, I believe. Kbon? I don't remember his name. But Garvey's over there as well. I do remember Garvey. A lot of people over there. Kurt Melcher's Kurt Melcher's actually in China. He is not at the NACE event, or NACE conference, I should say. It's a conference. But yeah, there's quite a bit going on. I actually really wish I could go to that. Next week, my guest will be Michael Jones. He is there right now. He's formerly of Culver Stockton, now coaching at Drury in Springfield, Missouri, my birthplace. Fun fact, and that's actually what my main motivation for getting him on the show is. I want to talk about my birthplace. You're there, living there right now, but turns out he's actually at the NACE conference, and I want to know a lot about that, and he's willing to talk about it next week. So next week he's gonna be the guest, and we're gonna talk about the NACE conference and see where how that's going to affect the future of collegiate esports. It's very exciting. Hope it's fruitful. Hope it works out. I guess it's working out. It's happening right now. I hope it provides some clarity for the path of collegiate esports. I feel like there's already a rough path going. with what needs to be done, but it is good to have all the minds in the same room together and really just hash it out. So looking forward to a conversation with Michael Jones next week. As far as the LICC goes right now, there is a website that you can reference, and I'll put that in the description below, and you can catch up with all the results that are going to be happening. I'm going to be tweeting about it throughout the week, so you can also check out my Twitter. I'll plug that at the very end. But I think it's time. This might be a short podcast. Honestly, there's not an extraordinary amount to tell. It's just, I guess there is. I could probably ramble forever about anything, really, because that's just how I am. But I do anticipate this being a shorter podcast. So this was one of my So just to set up everything, I was in Atlanta at the time, working I was a manager at Men's Warehouse. I had a regular job. I've always had a regular job. I've never actually relied on esports or went for esports as my full-time job. I always felt better having a job outside of esports, and just did esports for fun and also a side gig and whatever else I can get out of it. That's what it's always been to me. I've had ambitions for more, but I never actually pursued them. And this was kind of the situation now. I was in Atlanta. I was working at Men's Warehouse as a manager. I had to be up almost every day at about 7 or 8 o'clock to be at work by 8 or 9. I don't remember exactly what time it was. It doesn't matter because these games, they were held in China. And by the way, this is about the first LICC that I think it was the first LICC. It's not the first international collegiate championship of any sort, but I think that was the first time they actually branded it LICC. And I could be wrong on that one. But for this sake, I'm going to call it at least my first LICC. I've been keeping up with them since then, but this one is about me casting it. I was with a team as well. Bill Carter was there. He's actually hosting. I think he's hosting and casting over the Cyber Games right now. So, we've all moved in different ways in the last couple of years, and it's been really cool to see. But man, when looking back at this, it really, I still have the email. I have it pulled up right now. The first email I sent complaining about this whole situation was July 19th at 11:43 a.m. Must have been my day off, but 2017, by the way. So it wasn't 3 years. It was 2 years. Actually, oh my God, 2 years to the day tomorrow. Today. Oh, yeah, I'm recording this on Thursday. It'll be Friday when this drops. So it's 2 years to the day that you're listening to this that I sent my first complaint to Michael Sherman of Riot. He's been with Riot for a while, ever since Ivy Law, way back in the day when he was still in college at Texas. I think it was Austin? Texas Austin? I don't remember. But, man. So I had a lot of it. Let's start from the beginning. I don't remember how I was recruited for this. I think actually Michael Sherman may have reached out, or somebody reached out to me and a small group of people, like maybe 2 or 3 other people. Bill Carter was one of them. And I don't know if he wants me to use his name, but I don't think anything I can say on here is going to damage his resume at this moment. The guy's excelled at whatever he does. So I'm going to use his name. It was Bill Carter and somebody else. I want to say it was, Brian Starlkey. Oh, man. So back then, like even just a couple years ago, the pool for casters in Collegiate was very small. It just wasn't as big as it is now. That was that's when it was starting to really ramp up and accelerate. Collegiate was obviously when we had the LICC was going on when we were privy to it. The whole like European system was starting to come about, and that was all really cool. So I don't actually remember who reached out to me, but I do remember that there weren't too many NA collegiate casters that actually had background in the collegiate games and in the collegiate teams going. Which, by the way, Maryville and Toronto were going to represent North America. There wasn't that many people with knowledge of that, but we did, so we were the most obvious choice to cast those games. Now, they weren't going to fly us over to China. That would have cost too much money, and they didn't want to pay us in the first place. And I guess we're all right with that. I don't think we were in the long run. Well, obviously we weren't in the long run. I ended up getting paid for them, and I'll get into that. It was kind of a shit show with how it came about. We initially agreed not to be paid for it, not knowing that other people were getting paid for the same stuff that we were doing, and they were getting their own studio. I'll get into that too because that involves another character in the story. His name is Sin. I think he just goes by Sin, Syn. I actually don't remember his real name, but he's a caster from Europe. I'll get into that. I feel like I say that a lot. I'm sorry. I do kind of get scatterbrained with this. I am freestyling this. I'm actually did not write a script. I'm doing this all from memory. And I thought about writing bullet points, but I just kind of wanted to tell how I remember it initially. So don't remember who recruited us, but I do remember being very excited. Even if we weren't getting paid, I was like, this is going to be great exposure. We're doing an international event from U.S. soil. And then it really sunk into me. Oh my God, we're doing a U.S. event from not U.S. event. We're doing an event from China or Hong Kong. I don't remember which one. Either way, halfway around the world, 12-hour difference from U.S. soil. That means that we had to be up at like 1 a.m. every day for like 5 days. It doesn't seem like long, but yeah, oh my God. Whenever it got there, it sucked. I really am glad I got to cast those games. I don't care how the situation turned out. I'm really glad I got to cast those games because it's a good memory. It's Toronto before the main roster of Toronto went over to FlyQuest. That was like the big Toronto, the runner-up Toronto for that year, who arguably on a different day would have been champions, but Maryville University were champions that day. And that's just how the story is written on that one. But they actually ended up outlasting Maryville University in the LICCs this year, or that year, I should say, 2017. They ended up outlasting North American champions. And there's a lot of factors of for players going from United States over to China, and they I think had maybe 1 day to rest. They didn't really have anything to warm up with. They had to get over jet lag. I don't even know if they did get over jet lag. I remember joking with all of them about that for a moment. I don't think they actually got over jet lag. I think they just played with it, and that sort of thing affects a lot of people. So there was a lot of obstacles that North American teams had to overcome, and that's not just North American teams. Europe, they were adjusting quite heavily as well. Obviously, Korea didn't have too much to adjust to. The Japanese team didn't have really much to adjust to, and of course, the Chinese teams they were pretty. I mean, China is a very big country, but they're essentially at home. They weren't too far away from home. It's not like they had to travel like 10 to 12 hours or anything like that. But on our side, we gathered so much information that we could. Okay, so it was me, Bill Carter, and Brian Starkey. Yeah, Starkey. I remember his name. Yeah, because he understood some Chinese. He understood some Mandarin, so he helped translate for us, and that was really nice of him because a lot of this. So we compiled some spreadsheets and got some spreadsheets, and the spreadsheets that we got, some of them were in Chinese characters. We couldn't read it, but Brian could some of it. He's not super fluent, but he understands a good part of it, so he helped translate. So that's just one of the obstacles that we had to go over as casters, or get through as casters, is just a language barrier on paper because we needed to know about these teams. We wanted to know about these teams. And the research that I did coming up into this is obviously I knew about North American teams. I knew about Toronto. I knew about Maryville University. I had spent a good 2 weeks watching European games, getting to know them in and out. Portugal, I think it was Portugal, Italy, Germany, Spain, England. I think they were the Wolves or something like that. But yeah, some of those people still follow me. Actually, I still follow them and I still keep up with it. But Portugal and Germany, I believe they're the ones that went on. I know Portugal for sure because Portugal were actually had a pretty big fan base. I remember reading some of the forums that they were on. Talking about European Collegiate esports, European Collegiate League of Legends specifically, and I remember Portugal being pretty popular. They had a lot of fans, so they did really well. I guess because they were good in the first place. But it's really cool with this international event because you got to see the gap between all the regions. Japanese, the range from Japanese, which was probably the lowest rank to the Chinese teams, was off the wall. It was all over the place. While the best team in Europe, obviously, I I think they were better than the Korean teams and the Japanese teams, but they didn't even hold a candle to North American teams. And likewise, North American teams didn't really hold a candle to Chinese teams, or at least to College of Economics. The skill gap was just crazy for this international event. It was really fun to see, though. Like I said, gauging the power levels of all the regions in the world, and seeing how they all compared. Again, a lot of different ranges, and I was actually really surprised at that one. I thought actually North America was going to be one of the best teams, which I guess technically North America did have some of the best teams. Both of our teams made it to the semifinals. They had to face each other. By the way, that's the thing too. Toronto and Maryville, they had to face each other in the semifinals. So there was no possible way both of them were going to go to the finals, and I believe it was Toronto that won that one out. Because again, it was just their day. That's just how sometimes high-level collegiate North America works. Some days you have it, some days you don't, and both teams were astronomically jet lagged, so can't really blame it on that. They were both playing at probably a subpar level, honestly. But yeah, not going to get too much into that. I did a lot of research, as much research as I could. I remember actually getting frustrated at one of my friends. He was like trying to help me out so much, and the amount of information on these teams was so minimal that I could fit everything into a very small notepad. It was not that hard, not that difficult. Not to mention that, again, there was a language barrier. If I wanted to go over to try to research a Chinese team, not only did I have to hope that website was available in the United States, I also had to hope that my Google translator could translate it all, because it was a different language. I couldn't really focus on actually translate it very well and myself. And I asked for some assistance, but there wasn't really much to do. I guess, I don't know, it's hard to explain. I don't know if you've ever been to a Chinese website, but they're especially an esports website, they're a little bit different than the way the North American websites are formatted. So I had to get over that as well. And again, a couple of my friends, they understood some of the characters, but they couldn't fluently speak it. So it was really hard to get information on all the teams. So I tried to focus on what I could. Like I said, European, they're easy because most of them speak my language, and if they don't, I can at least understand. I phonetically, I know where most languages come from, especially European languages, and I've studied I think by this point in my life, I've studied about 4 or 5 European languages. So it's not very hard for me to translate and figure out what people mean whenever they say things, or if I see a word, I can translate it myself, or just it's easy to Google a word by itself if it's some form of European language. But they were really easy. The Japanese team, they actually had a really pretty website. They didn't really have much information on there, but it was a really pretty website. I still follow them on Twitter as well. They of course they tweet in Japanese, but they were really. It's really. I guess what I'm trying to say is it was really cool just exploring all these different teams and all these different the way they go about things and how much information was on them, which again wasn't very much. But we had our spreadsheets, and I still think I have those spreadsheets. I found them about 8 months ago or so, and I think I shared them with actually Bill Carter, because it was kind of a throwback. I was like, hey, remember these? Because again, still a big jumbled mess, but we had our spreadsheets, we had as much information as we could, and we just went on. And if you go in without that much information, then you just make the story as you go. And if you see a team that's really standing out in one game, you create that story for the next game. That's kind of how that goes. We had stories for coming in for certain teams, and other ones we just had to sort of make it up. And other ones we didn't have to worry about it at all, because we couldn't cover all the games, and some were going to be eliminated immediately anyways. So it wasn't too bad. I think it was all round robin. I think it was 2 different groups, and it was round robin. So there was a lot to cover, but again, we couldn't cover everything. We tried to cover as many North American games as we could, because that's who we were representing as casters. It's the English-speaking North American teams, and again, European teams had their own casters. Let me get to that, actually. So we were casting, and I was one night, one of the European casters, again, I think his name is Sin. It's been a while since I think he changed his name once too. I don't think it was Sin back then. It might have been Sin back then, and it might be something different now. I actually forget, and I apologize. But he reached out to me. He DM'd me on Twitter and was like, "Hey, what's Riot doing for you guys?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" Like what are they paying you?" He asked. I was like, they're not paying us anything. What are you talking about? He was like, really? They're like paying us this amount of money and they got us a studio. And I was like, what the piss? What are you talking about? So he like detailed all this stuff. This is why I have such a sore spot for this whole event. And this is when my sore spot for Riot really started coming to fruition. Like, if you've ever talked to me for more than 5 minutes about esports, about League of Legends, you'll know that I absolutely hate Riot, and I think that they can get bent. But this is one of the first times that it really surfaced. Like, got to me. It's like, okay, you guys, all right, see how it's gonna work here. And like, I partially blame Michael Sherman. I partially don't. Like, I don't know if he knew what. I since then I've come to understand that the European Riot branch, they're not like the North American Riot branch. They're different. They're different entities. They're just run under the same umbrella. So I don't know if Michael actually knew that the European branch was going to be given any sort of compensation or anything like that. Yeah, it really hurt. It really hurt me whenever I learned that the European team were getting very accommodated. Again, they were traveling. They got their travel paid for them. They got a studio and they got compensated. I was up at 1 a.m. in my apartment because I slept. I worked the previous day. I slept for 5 hours, got up at 1 a.m. and had to go to work right after the broadcast and do it all over again for nothing besides maybe some exposure. It's one of those situations. No one ever tempted me with exposure. I'm not going to paint a picture that's false here. I'm going to say exactly how it is. No one ever tempted me with exposure. That was something that went off in my own mind, and I completely understand that. And again, since then, I've learned more about the dynamic between the two companies, the two branches, I should say. And this was my last interaction. My last interaction with Michael Sherman was 2 years ago for this event. Since then, I have not had one interaction with him, so I don't even know how he is as a person. I've seen some of my, I guess, colleagues, are not really my friends, they're my colleagues that we follow on Twitter. We've just known each other forever. They're cool with him. And by association, I want to say he's an alright human, but I don't know, he works for Riot, so I can't really say is. But man, I'm looking at the email that he sent me back whenever I found this out. So yeah, whenever I found this out, I got with the other two casters like, hey, we're kind of getting in the ass right now, guys. Like, this is what's happening. And also, disclaimer, there's nothing wrong with getting in the ass, but in this situation, it was just used as a derogatory statement, but it has no bearing on my actual feelings on someone getting in the ass. Thank you very much. So we were kind of getting in the ass, and I told them about that, and they weren't happy either. Bill Carter, oh my God, this is the first time I've seen the business side of Bill Carter come out. He was like, I was like, hey, you guys want to type up an email together? We'll send this all together. And he was like, no, I'll do it myself. I'm like really pissed right now. At least I remember him being pissed. I certainly was, and I think he was too. So we ended up sending this letter to Michael Sherman. Bill sent his own letter. I sent my letter. I think maybe Brian sent his own letter too, but we kind of collaborated on it just to coordinate our efforts and say, hey, this sucks. Do something. What are we doing? What are we doing about this? So, and you know what? To Michael Sherman's credit, he sent a follow-up email saying, hey, this deserves some attention. I'm gonna focus on it, and I'll get back to you. So we sent that letter, or at least I sent my letter, July 19th, 2017. He came back the same day, only like 30 minutes later. So again, to his credit, I don't know anything about Michael Sherman outside of this, so I don't want to like paint a bad picture for him. He just happened to be there, be involved, being the one coordinating anything, and initially not pay me. But he came back 30 minutes later after that, after my letter, saying, thanks for sending this over. This is owed a proper response, but I want to talk to a couple of people internally before I send anything back. Just wanted to quickly acknowledge that I had received and read this email first, which I really appreciated of him. And then 5 days later, he finally got back with a response. I'm not going to read it for all of here. I don't really know. It's weird for me to share emails. I mean, I could throw it up on the screen. Like I said, I've saved it. I don't know. It's weird for me, but to his credit, he did apologize. An important part, he did say, I'm going to quote this part, an important part of Riot's culture centers around delivering feedback, especially in uncomfortable situations. I mean, that I wonder if he knows the CEO has me blocked on Twitter. I'll tell him about feedback. But to Michael's credit, he got us $1,000 for our efforts, and I was happy about that. He said it could take up to 45 days to process. That he fucking wasn't lying. I was resisting dropping the F-bomb on this one, but Jesus Christ, he was not lying about that 45-day shit. I think it was over 45 days. So this all concluded at the end of July. It was July 27th when I acknowledged it, saying, "Hey, thanks, blah 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 blah." I don't know. It was mostly me. It was back then. I was like trying to be really kosher about everything, especially with Riot. Now I just give one piss, but I was trying to be kosher. So I was like, "Hey, thank you. It's something I work for every day. I really appreciate the recognition." Blah 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 blah. It was that sort of thing. I'm gonna click. You might have heard that on the thing. I didn't get my check until November 15th. From 45 days, my ass. It was more like 75. It was like a little over 60 for sure, because all that process got started at the end of July, and I didn't get my check until mid. Oh God, it was almost 90 days. Jesus, I didn't get my check until mid-November. I went through 2 different payroll managers for this sort of thing, because I guess they kept getting fired or quit or something. I don't know, but man, that was my very first glimpse into the eternal workings of Riot, and what a clusterfuck. That's when I decided, I was like, I don't know if I want to work there. They're irresponsible. They suck. Again, props to Sherman for getting me all that, but Jesus, piss, 45 days? And then another, 40 because of incompetence? No. Oh my God, I was irate. I was so annoyed. Then this was a time too. I was moving from Atlanta to Vegas, and my God, $1,000 would have really helped out. I got it when I got over there for I was over there for over a month before I actually got that money. But thankfully I finally did, because again, I just moved. I was out of a job. I didn't want to work retail anymore, and I don't know. I could go on about that personal stuff, but whew, that sucked. I sent 2 invoices over too, by the way. I believe it was 2. Because again, I think the first manager lost it or just didn't leave it for anybody, and then the second one was like, "Hey, can you send that again?" That really burnt my ass. That whole situation burnt my ass. So much so that 2 years later, I made a podcast about it. So there you are. Overall, though, the event was really fun. It was weird watching. They had cheerleaders with a very almost empty, I won't say a very empty arena, but almost empty arena. They gave a lot of production to this over in the actual LICC stage, but when there's not a crowd, it just looks desperate more than anything else. And I hope the crowd has increased since then. I'm going to try to watch as much as I can this year, because again, I'm rooting for Maryville University. But once you get over some things, over the I guess the production woes and on the whole Riot thing and the realization, it was a good event. It was fun. It was a really lot of fun to cast. I forever have a memory of that, of doing that. I have international work under my belt, even though I didn't actually go to international waters. Over international waters, I would love to, but it was a good memory. I feel like it helped me build a lot of character, because obviously I got a little more jaded after that, and that started my little fire that made it, eventually turned into a giant blaze, giant, worldwide fire against Riot. I don't know if that was a good analogy, but yeah, I'll be honest, talking about this is kind of pissing me off. I just realized how much I hated that situation. That's why I'm saying, I do want to emphasize, I really did love casting the event. Wouldn't trade it for anything. I would like to at least get paid initially. Oh, that was another thing too. From that day on, I negotiated everything. I was upfront with payment. I was so sweet and humble and nice back then. Now I'm jaded and asshole, and I will flat out say, like, what are you paying? Are you paying anything? If you don't pay, I'm probably not even going to do anything now, because this sort of action jaded me so much that they were paying other casters and not us when we deserved it too. And that's, again, nothing taken away from the European dudes. They were great. I'm like, yeah, I feel like if you are working, you deserve to get paid, and that's how it is. And I feel that more so now because of this event than I ever did before the event. I don't know. I was, again, naive, just young as far as like the esport, getting into the whole business side of esports goes, and yeah, it taught me a lot. I don't really know much else to say. We all kind of was annoyed by it. I think we all kind of got burnt from it too. Obviously, Bill went on to do various other things in the avenues that he does, and he's still in the esports industry. I do whatever I want at the time. Right now, it's a podcast. Who knows what it's going to be next week? It's still going to be a podcast, but it might be something else added there too. I actually am really into Dota Underlords right now. I might even try to get into that. Brian, he works over at Blizzard, doing I don't know, technical Blizzard things. I don't know. Yeah. What a weird ride. What a weird situation. Shout out to Riot for being dickheads. My name's Joshua Fekes Quest. I'm going to go and end it right there. Like I said, a short one tonight. But one I kind of wanted to get off my chest because the LICC is coming. Next week is going to be a lot happier because I'm going to have Michael Jones on the podcast talking about his NACE convention or conference experience, and going over what they talked about, because that should lead into a lot of what happens in the future of collegiate esports, and I'm very excited to talk to him about it. Once again, I'll leave that link to the current LICC going on with Maryville University over there. I'll leave that in the description below. Other than that, thank you very much for joining me. Once again, Joshua Fekes Quest. You can follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/Fekes, P-H-E-Q-E-S. If you like any of the content, like, share, subscribe. Really appreciate it. Leave me a comment on Twitter. Leave a comment below. Do whatever you want to. Reach out to me. I am working on graphics. I took a poll, and I did get some comment earlier in my podcasting saying, yo, it'd be really cool if you had some graphics and a webcam. I'm working on it. I will do it eventually, but just not right now. Probably not next week either, but I will do it eventually. So once again, thank you very much, and have a nice night.